struggling to come to grips with reality. Confusion and chaos have become part of me. I seek answers to know where my liberation lies. Only in peace and calmness does that clarity arise. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmissions. The wisdom transmissions. So many voices, so many interpretations. No answers given, only outer temptations. Where can I find that truth inside of me? Realization of what I am is all I'm wanting to see. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmissions. The wisdom transmissions. No more redirection, ending the contemplation. Forget fighting reflection. Outer world's a projection. Internal is the cause, external's an effect, put it on pause. I'm silencing the noise, centering, entering void. Truth is beautifully subtle, the voice without a voice. Heart and mind shall settle, making decisions now, escaping illusions of choice. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmission. The wisdom transmissions.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I am back from Egypt. It was a life-changing experience, and happy to be back home in Canada. I was discovering quite a bit of phenomena in Egypt while I was over there, and it's probably going to lead to a couple new videos that I'll be doing here very, very soon, especially one representing the passage of time, about why we have time acceleration, why we may have time deceleration. So that's going to be one of the upcoming videos that I'll be putting together, hopefully the next couple days. But again, welcome to the Earth Intelligence Report. So we have a very exciting report today. Afterwards, we'll be getting into some Q&A as well too. So again, thank you very much for being here. I hope you all had a good I don't know, maybe week and a half or so without me. So again, back on here with the Wisdom Nexus and Earth Intelligence Report. And again, this Friday will be the Wisdom Nexus at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And of course, I'll be taking personal readings and general readings as well too on the Wisdom Nexus. Not here on the Earth Intelligence Report, but on Friday. I definitely will be. And before we begin, we just have this announcement here, as I'm going to be on Michael Sala's next webinar. That's going to be coming up here on December 13th. and you can register at exopolitics.org. You can find the link available in the video description of this video. And I'm going to be along with two others, Stuart Swardlow, who I've heard about for quite a few years. Lily Nova, I'm not too familiar with her, so it's going to be very interesting. And of course, Michael Sala is going to be interviewing all of us and looking into what's coming in 2026, revelations and revolutions. And this is very good timing because I am getting a lot more information about 2026 that I'm going to be saving specifically for this webinar. So again, that's taking place on December 13th. Again, you can register at exopolitics.org or just go to the link that you'll find in the video description. And it's a 5-hour webinar. So it's going to be really exciting. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with today's Earth Intelligence Report. Here we go. I asked the Consortium of Infinite Intelligence if it could shed light on two matters of discussion for this interaction. The first being an overall outlook on the extraterrestrial presence around Earth and any agendas that can be shared on any groups that are around the Earth at this time and are having any form of interaction with human beings. The second topic would be to share any additional updates or insights on the 3I Atlas comet, if any additional insights are available. Thank you. We acknowledge your queries. We will speak firstly on your first topic as it relates to that which is termed as the extraterrestrial presence and so-called agendas that you have mentioned. Firstly, we will announce that many of the known extraterrestrial beings that could be defined as group conglomerates seldomly interact with your people on Earth in the majority sense. Out of the vast amount of extraterrestrial presence within your star system, it would be commonplace to say that your civilization is not highly interacted with through the vast amount of these extraterrestrial group conglomerates on a majority scale. That is not to say that your civilization will not be interacted with as changes progress upon the Earth, but the focus of the extraterrestrial presence is not transfixed on humanity, but more importantly upon the Earth overall as a whole. We will say that there are specialists that have been properly educated and trained extensively to work with your civilization should the need itself arise. You have termed these specialists commonly as the human guardians and their associates. As these appointed specialists have the necessary education to work with certain members of your civilization, these at times would count as off-world contact in certain levels of understanding, we could say. We will care to add that any civilization that has no direct involvement or what you would term as karma would have no interest whatsoever in interacting with your civilization simply based on the intention of not desiring to be aligned with your civilization in its prematuration stages that it is currently going through. Those smaller groups that interact with your civilization will often speak to such appointed contacts when it concerns important events that will be taking place on your world. To put it simply, both polarities of positive and negative outlooks are often shared. Should it be something positive, the discussion will involve how to increase momentum, to radiate and expand the potential of this event. Should it be considered negative, there are discussions on certain actions that will need to be performed to alter the direction of events so that the impact on anything troubling can be redirected with minimal impact to the population. There are those of your civilization who refer commonly to such beings as reptilian forces or regressive forces that many believe are causing heavy states of manipulation upon your world and within your civilization. We would say, as an observer witnessing your world, its people, and the surrounding off-world civilizations, that such agendas are no longer intact or operating on your world. The skies, as it were, beyond your Earth are nested with more watchers than regressives. The concern of regressive forces attempting to impose their will upon your people was something that originally took place going back many years. But we would estimate that for the last approximate 15 to 20 years of time, those agendas have long since ceased, as there is far greater departure of such forces within your star system. Such beings are no longer considered a lingering threat to your civilization or your world. Much has changed through the sanitation that is taking place upon your Earth and within your star system. We would say that the stars above your world hold a much brighter outlook involving calmness, receptivity, understanding, and fellowship. That is what is transpiring beyond your world in the majority of events that are beyond planetary. Question: are there plans for what we could call a future agenda for contact? Something that may be on a positive side for humanity that could be arriving soon? We thank you for your additional query. We will say that the time for such an event is inevitable, of course. But at this time, your civilizations are reaching a powerful critical mass where the unification of nations are approaching, and this deserves a greater state of attention. Humankind will learn to work together to resolve their problems, and those that are watchers will see this unfold. It has been prophesied even by your people over the centuries of this time that would come where humanity will unite against the manifestors of corruption and oppression, and the meek shall inherit the earth. That is the era of which you are beginning to walk. Love, compassion, unification will be the norm of your society. When this is established, we will say that what we have said is inevitable between your civilization and other civilizations will be inevitable. We cannot provide you with a precise time when this may occur. However, if you can continue this path of fellowship and entering into unity, we would say that the momentum for a type of large-scale contact would ensue between your years of 2040, 2045, 2050, if such charge within your collective... sorry, I can't read that part. Such contacts are group-based involving multiple civilizations, and will not be considered by a single civilization, as no such civilization has been given such a duty. We shall move on to the second topic of your discussion, where you have asked about that which is termed as the Three-Eye Atlas Comet, and if we can provide any future details of this phenomenon. We will state that the comet that you know as Three-Eye Atlas is a seed bringer to not only your world, but to your entire star system. It is a stabilizer that is subtly depositing essential components of both organic and energetic nature that will work to enable the stabilization of life right to the level of its DNA on your world to begin a process of remembrance. Consider it to be a flower of the field, placing down the necessary seeds so that the sprouts that grow around you collected for the harvest will benefit your bodies to higher levels. The Three-Eye Atlas Comet is designated to arrive at this time as a messenger of good tidings, where its message is the rewiring and sprouting of your own planet and its life forms infrastructure to enable a greater sense of evolution and purpose to take place. Opening of energetic channels, changes in DNA coding sufficient enough to retain certain levels of physical enhancements within the inner lattice of the body's infrastructure to open specific areas within the spine, major organs, specifically sub-brain regions, and cranial regions that will awaken a form of remembrance within many of your kind. A remembrance that will enable a higher logic and reasoning within the center of the brain matter to hold a higher capacity for rational deduction, memory improvement, and resistance to suggestive states that are problematic both individually and collectively. The Three-Eye Atlas Comet is a bringer of stability. It is not a comet that is disguised as a form of spacecraft, although its deliverance does root back to ancient stellar ancestors who has visited your world and star system in the past to aid it with the seeding of advanced life forms through common bombardment of asteroids, meteors, and comets spanning eons that begin the seeds of life on this world back billions of years, beings that the human civilizations has not yet met, but may in the distant future. Three-Eye Atlas will continue with its fertilization of organic dispersed seed planting as it circles out of your star systems, and continuing onto other locations, proceeding with additional work upon other stars and suns, completing what it has been designed to carry out. It is a carrier of stability, a bringer of well-intended upgrading for worlds, and the life upon them seeding changes that will last several millennia, well into the future, as you understand it. This is what can be shared as it pertains to your queries at this time. We are the Consortium of Infinite Intelligence, and we will now conclude. Okay, well, there you go. That was a very long report. I was able to finish that up last night. But it was quite a very, very informative report as well, too. So 3i Atlas is still getting a lot of buzz all across the internet. I know there's a lot of people that say different things about it, where they are absolutely convinced that it's an alien spacecraft or that it's maybe going to collide with the Earth or anything of that nature. And I'd have to say no to both of those things. And I know there's a lot of theories and all that. But basically what I'm feeling here, even looking at a lot of the research and doing a lot of the research on the comet, is that it's nothing threatening whatsoever. It is not leading to any particular form of hostility. It's not leading to some doom and gloom situation. I know people love doom and gloom because then that's marketable. Then that's something that can make money. But the idea of 3i Atlas really is that it is a technology, you could say. It has been crafted by ancient star ancestors, but it is not a ship itself. Again, it has a particular trajectory. It's kind of like looking at springtime where we see the pollen, right? Like the pollen spores are now starting to blow, and they're just traveling all across the land, and they will land somewhere, and then eventually that is going to sprout into something else. Well, that is basically how I would see 3i Atlas. I would see 3i Atlas as a pollen bringer, right? Or a seed bringer, that it's basically planting seeds in the field. And it basically has DNA information within it based upon its infrastructure that it contains. So it is organic. So what's also interesting is that the comet itself does not have hardly any iron whatsoever. Many other particular types of comets have iron. This one does not have iron because iron will often enable the idea of the comet to crumble or burst in that particular way. And because there is a considerable amount of nickel, but not a lot of iron, this is actually what's trying to keep this capsule of a comet intact. And also working together with a great deal of intensity with CO2 jets. So its CO2 jets basically bring it about into a strong state of propulsion. It does have a tail, or we could say multiple tails. But basically its trajectory and how it is that it is actually dispersing organic compounds directly into space. And that rippling effect of it traveling throughout the trajectory of our star system, a lot of that those components would go directly into the atmosphere, almost like creating a mix, because the atmosphere is actually what holds DNA together pertaining to life, right? It basically becomes a processor for that. So that's going to be very, very interesting to see what may unfold, right? It's very, very deeper knowledge. It's something that science itself still does not quite understand about how worlds get created, but it really starts with the atmosphere, right? And then being able to take that those components from the comet and being able to mix that into the atmosphere, there's a change happening. It's something that represents an organic growth. And this is also how a lot of life seeds upon planets is often through passing comets. It can also be through meteorite bombardments as well too. So this is very much a life bringer, a seed bringer, a stabilizer, a balancer, something that is going to affect all life upon the planet in a very positive way, okay? Not a negative one. I'm getting that 3i Atlas is kind of like a godsend. It's a very, very good thing that's here. So I don't see any doom and gloom a part of 3i Atlas. So there you have it. So that is the Earth Intelligence Report. Of course, also looking into the extraterrestrial agendas as well. A lot of stuff has changed, and I can confirm that from what the consortium has also talked about relating to a lot of these regressive races and stuff. And I've been saying for quite a few years now, a lot of them are being booted out. A lot of them are leaving, right? They're either being booted out of the system, they're leaving. They realize that their empire's finished. They realize that this momentum that Earth is on cannot be stopped. They're kind of reading the writing on the wall, and they leave, right? A lot of them are gone. It's not to say that all of them are gone, but a great deal of them are gone. And as the consortium says, there's a lot more watchers in the sky than there are regressives. So we basically have thousands of different civilizations watching us constantly. And of course, we don't have contact with those thousands of civilizations. We have maybe contact with a small morsel of that amount, and those are specialists, right? So again, we're learning a little bit more about how the interstellar community functions. Is if we do have civilizations that have some type of contact with the people of Earth, it comes through specialists. So again, human guardians would be some of those specialists, and their associates would be some of those specialists. We also have personal specialists, right? Sometimes it's ourselves that we're talking to. It's ourselves that can represent beings that are connected to stasis bodies or what have you. You may have your own personal contacts, okay? And of course, they are specialists. So it's really only the specialists that come out here and start talking to humankind, or even ourselves individually. They kind of have to go through a training. There's like an education with it about how they are able to interact with us. It's very, very fascinating. So maybe we can talk more about that down the road at the same time. All right, so we're going to go ahead now and change gears and move into any questions that you guys have on the chat. Another important update I have is, of course, for those of you who have tuned into the Wisdom Nexus over the past few weeks, I have talked about Donald Trump in the White House and how that was not the real Donald Trump. Well, the news I have right now is that the real Donald Trump is now back in the White House. It's quite interesting, okay? So the Donald Trump that was there, going back a couple weeks just before going to Egypt, was the fake Trump, was a doppelganger, right? It was not the real Trump, and people were starting to see that this person had like severe mental breakdown or whatsoever. And just recently, being able to watch some of the interviews and seeing exactly how Trump seems to have changed quite a bit. There were even people who thought he was dead, I think, in a previous weekend. They said that maybe somebody thought, or some people thought, that he died over the weekend. I would say, well, if any Trump died, it would probably be the false one. It would probably be the doppelganger. But the real Trump is now back in the White House. Okay, the real Trump and the real Melania are back in the White House now. So that's good to see. And we may speculate in regards to say, well, where did the real Trump go? What happened here, right? And my feeling is that I think he wanted to press forward with certain agendas that he wanted to take care of, but a lot of his handlers may not have agreed with that, and they may have dismissed him from the White House or banished him or whatever happened, and they put this doppelganger Trump in so that they could basically try to fulfill some of their own agendas. And I guess something happened pertaining to that group. Maybe they got overtaken, maybe they got shut down, maybe their power has been taken away from them, and the real Trump is now able to come back into the White House and is now able to do a lot of the work that he's looking to do. So that was interesting. I was even pulling a reading on that just the other day as well and saying, okay, I'm getting this feeling that the real Trump is now back in the White House. Is this true? And I was getting a yes. Yes, he is back now. So whatever happened to the doppelganger, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, thrown in jail, who can say? But it was all part of some sort of doppelganger plan that was taking place. Like I said, I feel that Trump was trying to bring about agendas that they may not have agreed with, and maybe he was pushing for it quite a bit, and he basically got purged from the White House. But he's able to come back now. So I think whatever that group was, maybe it's a subgroup or what have you, they're basically out of the picture right now. So Trump is back in the White House. The real Donald Trump is back in the White House now. So we'll talk more about that on Friday, about the return of the real Donald Trump back in the White House now. So that's going to be very, very interesting. More of that this Friday. Okay. Just surprising I had to share that with everybody because I thought that was big news last night when I was tuning into it. Okay, let's go ahead and move on into the chat. So, hello everybody. Yes, I'm back. Egypt, like I said, was life-changing. It was amazing. Like I said, there's going to be some things I'm going to talk about pertaining to Egypt. I'm actually going to be creating a brand new project that's in the works right now because of Egypt. I'm not going to share that right now, but it is a brand new project. It does involve physical work. It does involve physical exercise. And it's, well, I'm not going to give away too much, but it is going to be an exciting project as I'm currently building out right now, as I'm learning to work with Egyptian hieroglyphics. So that's kind of the hint I'm giving, is I'm working with Egyptian hieroglyphics. We went to pretty much all the big temples in Egypt. I started taking lots of pictures of a lot of the hieroglyphics on the walls and started studying them, specifically through the temples, and there's a lot of surprises in those hieroglyphics that I'm able to translate, right? AI is helping me to translate it, giving me some very good, accurate information because I'm able to cross-reference with what it's saying. So again, there's some exciting things ahead, and like I said, some exciting videos to come at the same time. So we do have the first question here. I don't think I have any donation questions. Okay, I do not have any donation questions. This one here is from Samar. Samar says, question, how is Bitcoin looking at the end of this year? Okay, how is Bitcoin looking? I think we'll do a Akashic reading first, and then we'll go into the tarot, double check on everything. So just between November and December, how is Bitcoin looking? We're kind of in a slump right now. Okay, so it's kind of like this. And maybe it kind of goes up a little bit, okay? So I'm not seeing any surges for Bitcoin as we come into the end of the year. It's kind of like this, and then maybe it kind of shoots up a little bit and then goes into a steady line, but it may also get at the point to crash again. So Bitcoin's not looking too good, okay? Even XRP right now is starting to hit a bit of a downward curve as well, so I think it'll recover, of course. But it's also hitting a bit of a downward curve. But as far as Bitcoin goes, kind of like this, maybe a little bit of an up, and then kind of a straight line, or somewhat close to a straight line. But it's hard to say. I'm kind of feeling like it may go down again. So Bitcoin is not looking too good. From what I can see here in November and December, like I said, it may get a little bit of a push. But other than that, it's going into a bit of a hectic year in 2026. Like I said, it's just not its year. There's going to be a lot of resistance to it on the stock market, on the crypto market. So we have to kind of keep our eyes open for that. But I'm not seeing anything in regards to a gigantic push for Bitcoin at this time. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Okay. Just so you know, guys, I don't bring Adronis in for the Earth Intelligence Report. That's just for Fridays, okay? But we can look into the question altogether. Just offer insight regarding the inversion process this universe is going through. How would we feel this? Well, we don't really. It's something that's just, it's the most subtle of the subtle. And I believe what you're talking about is with the inversion process is what I'm talking about with energies leading up to 2038. Okay. Now, again, I have talked about this even with Michael Sala, with some of my past interviews. And we'll probably talk about this more when I do the webcast or the webinar on December 13th with him as well too. So like I said, there's some things I'm kind of holding back specifically for the webinar because I want to have some good juicy points to talk about on December 13th on his Exopolitics webcast or webinar. But basically, like I said, with the inversion process, you're seeing that based upon the nature of the flow of the magnetic of time. Okay, now you have to understand that first and foremost, time is a magnetic. Time is not a dimension. Okay, there really are no such thing as dimensions. Dimensions are mathematical formulas. There are equations to help mathematical formulas balance themselves out with their equations. So there really is no such thing as dimensions. So when we're looking at the nature of time, time itself represents a magnetism. Okay, and this is what's actually going to be in my new video when I bring it out. So I'm not going to try and give away too much. But because time is a magnetic, magnetism itself can be absorbed. And that's basically what's happening right now as we speak. And that magnetism that relates to the nature of time on a universal level can be condensed. It can be bent. It can be manipulated, right? It can be shortened. It can be thinned. It's a veil, basically, in that way. And that condensing of the magnetic of time is what we're basically seeing right now, right? Where the feeling of time is speeding up with time being a magnetic, which again, I'll be getting into in the upcoming video. But really what's happening is all of this event is coming together very quickly. We're getting loads and loads of different events all over the world that are very eventful. So we're getting eventful events. Best way I can put it. And that is basically, it's kind of like looking at your sink when you pull the plug out and then you see that little whirlpool, that little tornado that is spiraling and everything's going down the drain. Well, that is very much what's happening. Okay, so as you fill up the sink with the plug in it, all of that water would represent the magnetic of time. As you pull out the plug, and now you're getting that, right? You're getting all that suction from the drain itself, and it's turning into that little whirlpool. Well, that whirlpool of water that is going down the drain would represent exactly what we're going through right now. It's a whirlpool, right? And so it's a collection of water, and it's basically being pulled, right? It's kind of like almost like a gravitational pull towards the center, kind of like a singularity, right? It's pulling all of that directly into itself. But what's also going to happen is it's going to come out the other end. It's going to come out the other side, right? So there's a suction that's taking place. And it's through that suction that is going to enable a shift in consciousness post-2038. As I said, we've talked about the idea of moving from six chakra centers, and of course the crown center, which could make 7, into 12. Okay? And this is not fictional. This is also something that Edgar Cayce has also confirmed. Okay? Edgar Cayce was also talking about this, that when you get to that particular critical mass point, he didn't say 2038, but he says that there will be a critical mass point where it will transform into a 12 energy center human genome, where again a lot of the new children may be coming upon this planet with 12 strands of DNA. Okay, so everything that's happening right now is basically that little whirlpool of water, and everything representing falsities, illusions, falsehoods, everything that basically has been designed to put a wool over our eyes is being flushed down the drain, right? We're going to see all of that go, right? Everything pertaining to that is going to go. But we're going to see more and more eventful based situations unfolding. And that is going to be like the little whirlpool just sucking up all of that magnetic of time, of event that is going down the drain, and then there is a new start. Okay? But everything moves seamlessly. It's so seamless. Okay, so unless you have incredible attuned senses, because you've been meditating for years or whatever it may be, then maybe you can detect this. But I've meditated for years. And it's still very challenging to try and detect this, other than just seeing it in the forefront, getting an impression of what's coming together. There's even a lot of divine, intelligent beings out here that still don't even really know what the entire process is. They understand the mechanic and they understand it intellectually, but to actually go through it, we've never gone through this before. I don't know what to expect, really, other than what I've been told. And a lot of that is that it's going to be a very seamless transition, which means hardly anybody is going to feel this when it comes to 2038. When that time comes and the whirlpool is there, we'll just see again this blasting of events, and then there'll still be more events that will be coming out through the other side, but everything starts to normalize over a span of time. Okay? So I don't have an answer for you about that, about how would we feel this, other than the idea of looking at the intensity of events from what is happening right now, and just being able to tune in to get an idea about what's actually happening. Like I said, it's kind of like there's a divine fractal that represents the Egyptian timeline, right? Where you're basically just cutting these points that are basically golden mean aligned. And the only way you're really going to look and see what's actually taking place is if we've already seen what's happened and being able to align it together with this timeline. But in order for that to happen, we need to be aware of the fractal math pertaining to the Egyptian timeline, and that's not really my area. But really, in that sense, we're looking at different oscillations and octaves of events happening intensely between now and 2038. Whereas we get closer to the 2030s, there may be, again, a lot more intense events taking place that are just stripping everything down. And then when we get to the other side, we will notice that through the events that follow, everything now starts to normalize itself, right? We kind of go into like a normalization cycle post-2038. But like I said, guys, I only have bits and pieces of what I'm getting here. And basically giving you advice about how you can feel this is just really to be aware of the type of events that are coming. and that events are going to continue to intensify as it goes down the whirlpool drain, as time is a magnetic. So that's really what I can tell you, Alina, right? Other than that, like I said, this is our first time that anything like this has been done in universal history. We don't know what to expect, right? Other than what I've been told. And other than some of the signs that just represent the quickening of events that will continue to intensify, right? We have intense events happening every day, then intense events happening every half day, and then intense events happening every couple of hours, then every hour, then every 30 minutes, then every 15 minutes, then every 10 minutes, and every 5 minutes. And if we're following the idea of the Fibonacci sequence, where it's 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, well, maybe it goes in that direction as well, too, every 8 minutes. Every 5 minutes, every 3 minutes, every 2 minutes, every 1 minute, maybe half a minute, right? And we just get these intense events until we go into the center point and then out again. But it's instantaneous and it's seamless. You won't even know what's happening, right? So other than that, that's what I can share. It's still very much going to be a mystery for us until we get closer to the approaching of that time. But it's nothing to fear. It's not leading to the end of anything other than the idea of the end of prophecy. That's really what 2038 represents. It's the ending of prophecy, and it's the beginning of a new era to where prophecy has not been touched, which means new prophecies will need to start coming together in the new era that we move into the new universe that we move on to. This is the event. This is exactly what so many people have talked about for a very long time, and they've even made a TV show about the event. And then they think it's like some sort of situation with the sun. I'm like, no, it's a lot more vast than that. This is a universal event, and it's unavoidable. And it does not matter if you are in a body or if you are not in a body. You are going to feel the event. Okay, so that's 2038. That is the event. That's what's taking place. So that's what I can share with you at this time about it. Okay. Okay, so Jen says, hi, Brad. So again, guys, I can't bring a Jonas in, okay? That's on Friday. But can I talk about the true benevolent ancient Egyptian race who brought ancient technology? Well, here's the thing about the Egyptian race, okay? You have to understand that a lot of the ancient cultures upon the planet right now that we are aware of learned a lot about these ancient technologies from one particular master civilization, Atlantis, okay? Egyptians knew how to build the pyramids after Atlanteans taught them how to do it. Okay? When you go to the Great Pyramid of Giza, when you go to the Giza Plateau, and you compare it with many other pyramids around, of course, there's a different aura about it altogether. But there's a reason why the Egyptians never went into the Giza Plateau with those pyramids and put hieroglyphs in the pyramids, because they weren't theirs. Those pyramids that you see in the Giza Plateau are Atlantean pyramids. Okay? So that again is the idea of Atlanteans coming to Egypt and building the Pyramid of Giza, right? Building the entire Giza Plateau, including the Sphinx. Okay? So everything on the Giza Plateau is Atlantean technology, not Egyptian. Okay? Now again, Egyptians were taught by the Atlanteans how to utilize the ancient technology. What's the ancient technology? It's a Taurus stone. It's a Taurus stone with the accompanying cones that represent a certain metallic compound, essential for magnetic cohesion. What you're basically doing is you're putting the Taurus stone over your neck like it's a necklace, and you basically flip it so that the dielectric side is up, right? So when you look at the Taurus stone, you see that if you were to look at it like with magnetic film or with a ferrocell cell or anything of that nature, you would see that there is, again, a red shift and a blue shift. And the red shift would represent the dielectric, the blue shift would represent the magnetic. So you want to have the dielectric end up. As the dielectric end is up, you are basically taking some time, because you have gone through extensive training, basically quite commonly through Atlantean priests or anyone else who had received the knowledge, to basically interface yourself and moving directly into the field of the dielectric. So your field and the field of the dielectric are one. The cones that you would utilize would also be connected directly to the field. the object that you would want to work with would also be connected directly to the field. So you're basically going into an altered state of consciousness to connect directly to the field of the torus stone, working together with the torus cones, and then being able to link together, interconnected, as one field. And then that field that you're able to radiate through the technology will basically absorb all of the magnetic property, or rather the magnetic attributes of a particular object. It basically cancels it out. As it cancels out its magnetism, that polarity in that sense is now losing its grip pertaining to gravity, because all gravity is the after effect diminution of a divergent magnetic field. Brad, what the hell does that mean? So think of it in the idea, like I said, if I was to bake an apple pie in the oven, okay, and the timer goes off and the apple pie is ready to come out, and then I take the apple pie out of the oven and I put it on the stove, and we can see kind of like a heat wave coming out from the apple pie, and then that heat wave starts to settle. The pie starts to cool down. Well, that's like the idea of gravity. Okay, gravity is not a field. Gravity is an anti-field, right? You have someone like Ken Wheeler telling you this stuff, and he tells it in a very technical term, and I'm attempting to tell you in more for a simple term. So gravity is the result of an after effect. Adronis actually said this well before I even met Ken Wheeler. He says that the nature of gravity is an after effect. It's an after effect that's produced. It's not a law, and it's not a field. It is an effect. It's an after effect relating to a magnetic field, a divergent magnetic field. So it's almost like it binds. It binds the particular object once a magnetic field becomes divergent. So basically, as the magnetic field expands, there's the grasping of gravity upon, let's say, for example, the apple pie. So the cooling down of the heat from when you take the apple pie out of the oven is the idea of the grasping of gravity upon a particular object because of its magnetic field. A magnetic field is responsible for the effect of gravity. When you do not have a magnetic field around an object, it has no gravity. So basically what happens is you not only can levitate that boulder or that piece of granite, whatever it may be, you can now start working with the field and vibrations, because you can actually start chanting through the field as well too, and you can actually start creating oscillations. Now, this is also something that you discover in Egypt relating to some of the objects that were being used by ancient torus stone technology. As you can see, square grids. Okay, the Egyptians would refer to this like the net. Okay, but what that is those are oscillation patterns of frequency utilized by torus stones. You know a torus stone has been utilized if you're able to see that kind of square grid around an object. Usually that would represent something that's unfinished, right? Because you can give it a good polish after that. But my guess is whenever you see a square grid, this was being used, but something was not being completed. Something was not being finished. So there's a fallen obelisk that is in Egypt. I can't remember whereabouts it was. But we saw a fallen obelisk that was probably about 100 tons in size. And I was seeing that square grid that was there. And that's the vibrational quality of the torus stones, right? So when you're there, you're utilizing, again, that frequency that can be generated through the torus stones, through yourself, right, through the cones. There's actually a radiance. There's a frequency that's being blasted while you're actually manipulating the stone, right? So it's almost like you're singing to the stone at the same time as you're manipulating its field. There's like high-pitched frequencies or even subtle frequencies in that sense. You could actually pick up the stone and you could twist it. You could twist it like it's a corkscrew, okay? You could shrink it, increasing its mass. You could expand it, decreasing its mass, but again, giving it much more size. You could now start to inscribe certain things on that stone based upon thought projection, okay? And then once you want to repolarize the stone, you basically cease the connection between the field of the granite and the torus stone, which means it basically interlocks together with another piece of matter. So let's say there's a stone here and there's a stone here you want to levitate, and then you're bringing it down, and now it meshes, and now you're basically disassociating the torus stone from those two, and then it basically returns back to normal. The magnetic field starts to become coherent again because of its surrounding energy, its surrounding environment. So now you basically have two stones that are completely embedded with each other. Okay, the closest thing we have to the modern understanding of this is what a fellow by the name of Edward Leeds Skelton was able to do with Coral Castle that is in Florida. He was able to create a makeshift Taurus stone, basically utilizing radio tuners, chain hoists, being able to wrap cord around the blocks, and then being able to tune them with radio tuners, which is basically what the Taurus stones do, right? They will generate frequencies. And so those frequencies in that sense, like I said, basically just completely and totally cancel out the magnetism of the object, enabling it to levitate because gravity no longer has a grip on it. And you can push it with a finger, right? You could take a 100-ton stone and you're just giving a gentle push. It's like working with it in outer space. There's no gravity, right? You can push anything with your strength, right? One person can basically build these 15, 20, 50, 100-ton boulders and put them together and make them into a work of art, which is exactly what Edward Leeds Skelton did for Coral Castle. Okay, so he knew exactly how the pyramids were built. He knew the technology that was there. Obviously, he had some lifetimes there as the high priests. Okay, so who built the pyramids? Specifically for Giza, the priests of Atlantis were the builders of Giza Plateau. Okay, and again, you have other different sects of priests. You have priests and their initiates, and they would all work and coordinate together, especially when you're able to tune into the Taurus fields and your fields are all connecting together as one. You can basically have this type of telepathy, and your connection to each other could be beyond incredible. And again, we can't understand this right now because we've never used this technology, right? Even if you gave it to me, I'd still have some trouble trying to get it to work. But this is exactly what's come to me through intuitive flow, is that you have to spend time bonding in oneness with the field. And a lot of it can be chanting, a lot of it can be mudra, a lot of it is almost like going out of body and feeling yourself just as the field, right? So there's a lot of advanced training. And this is why I say it's only like a lot of the high priests that knew how to work the Taurus stones, and they would teach their initiates as well too. And initiates would be part of you could say, the building crew for a lot of these pyramids. Because basically, when you look at Giza, when you look at the Great Pyramid of Giza, guys, when you see photos, that doesn't do it justice. You have not seen the pyramids until you are there in person. You gotta go there in person. Like, I spent years looking at videos, looking at photos. No, it does not do it justice. It's not good enough. You got to go there. You have to go to Egypt. You have to go to Giza. You got to see the pyramid with your own eyes. It will blow you away. Okay, and it did. As soon as I laid my eyes on Giza, my whole body was getting like almost getting electrocuted. I was getting so intensely emotional. I could look at the pyramids and so, oh my God, I feel like I've come home. I feel like I've come home because I feel like I've connected with the pyramids so many times throughout many lifetimes, and it just feels like I was coming home. I was getting emotional just by looking at, going down the street on the bus and then looking out the window and then seeing the pyramids there. It was a very emotional moment for me. I said, that's it. I'm home, right? So being able to touch, I was able to touch the pyramid, right? That was wonderful. Not only that, I was able to go inside the pyramid. Not only that, I was able to go all the way up into the king's chamber. Not only that, I was able to go inside the sarcophagus. Not only that, I was able to close my eyes and tune in while I was laying down inside the sarcophagus, and I felt the entire energy of Egypt breathing with me. The pyramid walls were breathing. The floor was breathing. The sarcophagus was breathing. Even outside beyond the pyramids, the Giza Plateau was breathing. I was able to zoom out to the entire land. The entire land was breathing, and I felt it very vividly. And I could only spend like a minute inside the sarcophagus. So I was like just basically tuning in as quickly as I could and just seeing exactly what I could feel. And it's incredible. To be inside the sarcophagus, in the king's chamber, inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, that is probably one of the best experiences of my life. That's where I said it changed me. Majorly changed me. I wish I had more time inside the sarcophagus because there was a lot of things I wanted to look into. But just being there for a minute, just tuning in, and just feeling the entire land of Egypt breathing with you, that's a sign of interconnectedness. Okay, one of the things I also say is, like, if you're doing meditation and you're acting like nature itself is holding your hand, that's one way of doing it. Another way is just get everything to breathe with you. Get nature to breathe with you. Feel the land breathing with you, feel the birds breathing with you, feel everybody and everything breathing with you. And that's a perfect connection of interconnectedness. That's oneness too. Just everything breathes with you. Okay, so that would be the two. Number one, hold hands. Number two, just see everything breathe in sync with you. And you're connecting with the breath of the cosmos. And you're interconnected as one. So again, guys, I have lots of stuff to tell you about Egypt. It was absolutely fascinating and absolutely life-changing. And if you guys weren't there with me, boy, you missed out, right? But there's a lot of stuff that I'm going to do because I'm going to bring Egypt to you guys. And that's really one of my big missions right now, is working on an Egyptian project that is in the works right now, which I'll be revealing very soon. Maybe not too soon, but very soon. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. This is from Layla. Layla says, God equals love. Energy can't be created or destroyed, only transformed. Sorry, guys, but that's not true. Okay? If that was the case, we wouldn't be able to bend magnetism. Okay? Unfortunately, a lot of what we have been told about that is all based upon general mechanics and general relativity that has not been able to prove that. Okay? That's a theory. It's a theory that energy cannot be destroyed or transformed. Guys, every time you have a lightning bolt strike, that's energy being destroyed. Every time there's a lightning bolt that shoots down from the clouds right down to the ground, what's happening? My friends, that's a dielectric discharge. That is energy being destroyed. You ask any electrician who is able to work on generator boxes, working through their career, and they will tell you, oh, we can tell you, energy can be destroyed. Because electricity is the result of energy being destroyed. Where you have those arcs when you look at a Tesla coil, and you see all of those arcs, those are discharges, my friends. What is a discharge? That's the releasing of magnetism. Magnetism is being released, creating an electrical discharge, right? So the electric bolt itself is like a hybrid. It's a hybrid between the torus and the hyperboloid, which creates the sphere. And the electricity, the electromagnetism that we're so very fond of, would be the geometry of that sphere, but that is, again, representing energy in decay. So it is not true whatsoever of thinking that energy cannot be destroyed. That's a bunch of garbage, because it can be. A lightning bolt is a sign of destroyed energy. The arcs from Tesla coils is a result of destroyed energy. Magnetism is basically destroyed, dead, because it absorbs itself back into the dielectric. Do you guys know what the dielectric is? You can refer to it as the ether. You can refer to it as the 0 point. You can refer to it as substrate. Okay? But basically, it's not visible. It's omnipresent. It's action at a distance. It's longitudinal. Energy can absolutely be destroyed because all energy is, my friends, is magnetism. Energy is magnetism. It's not the dielectric. Okay? The dielectric is not energy. So this is something, again, that you guys have to learn a little bit more about, is understanding a little bit more about the difference between magnetism, electricity, and dielectricity. When you're looking at electromagnetism, you are looking at decayed prana. The prana, the life force energy, the magnetism that represents what creates shape, what basically brings about the forms of life, that's all magnetism. That's magnetism bent. If the idea of energy could not be destroyed or created or destroyed, we really would not have life in the way that we do, right? Because life always recycles itself. It will recycle, it will be destroyed, and it will come back again, right? Deconstruction and reconstruction. That's the nature of all things. We have to look into natural law, not into human laws. Human laws don't matter. It's natural law that matters. Energy can absolutely be destroyed because all energy is magnetism. Okay, and magnetism has a form, and that form can change, and that form can also be destroyed because you absorb it back into the dielectric through a discharge. You have charge and you have discharge. Discharge is what takes that magnetism and destroys it and makes it one with the dielectric. So maybe you guys need to check out Ken Wheeler, because he really has a grasp on this. There's also another fellow by the name of Eric Dollard who's looked at this. Of course, Tesla has looked at some of this as well too. Charles Proteus Steinmetz, Oliver Heaviside, James Clerk Maxwell. Okay, these are the giants of the true nature of the ether, right? That's what you want to look into. And I'm basically looking at it just much from a metaphysical perspective, with a little bit of technicality, but just trying to make it simple in the best way I can. But the nature of the dielectric is omnipresence. You're never going to be able to see it, right? But it represents the essence of discharge, because dielectricity, the ether, substrate, the 0 point, moves into centripetal convergence. Okay? So that's where everything returns back to the center. Everything that returns back to the center, returns back to the one, is the nature of the dielectric. Everything that moves away from the center, which represents the geometry of the torus field, is the magnetic. So the magnetic, and basically all those patterns that you see in the torus field, is really the magnetism and the dielectric blending, right? There's a blendiness because magnetism is the dielectric, but dielectric is not magnetism. Okay, everything really just comes from the dielectric. Magnetism just represents the idea of interference. It represents the idea of perturbation. It represents low pressure systems. Just like in weather, there's low pressure systems, and that's what you could refer to as the magnetism. Magnetism is inertia, okay? And that inertia has the ability to be destroyed. Why? Because magnetism is impermanent. Magnetism is not permanence. Even the dielectric is not permanence. But magnetism has more of a lower pressure system, which means it can generate the nature of form. What we breathe in, that's the magnetic. What we breathe out, we feel it leaving. There's the magnetic. We can feel it through our form. Okay? It can absolutely be destroyed because it is impermanent. Anything that is impermanent can be destroyed. Take that with you. All right? Thank you very much. All right. Let's go down here. Okay. Clagnauts, I believe I'm getting that name right. Hi, Brad. How will that affect Israel now that the real Trump is back? Well, isn't it interesting that Trump was doing his speech? I think it was in the UN or something like that. And there were 2 Israeli ministers there that were outraged in regards to what Trump was saying. And they basically got booted out. And usually the doppelganger Trump, who would be in bed with Israel, instead, this Trump said, good riddance. He basically just said goodbye to Israeli ministers, and if he was still part of that plan, then it would be quite the opposite. So basically, I think that he may have given Israel the heave-ho. But like I said, this is the real Trump we're talking about, not the doppelganger Trump who was in bed with Israel, right? So that was not the real Trump, and it doesn't matter. I don't care if you guys agree with me or not. I don't really give a damn, right? Nonetheless, that's what's happened. It was a doppelganger Trump that was in the White House. A lot of people thought that he was losing his mind. He's doing these stupid things. He's saying these stupid things. He's being ridiculous. He's being completely out of character, even more than usual. And it felt like people felt, I think, that this Trump actually died. Like, I think it was over the Veterans Day weekend or something like that. And then we noticed that there was kind of like a weekend of silence. And all of a sudden, the new Trump comes back, or the true Trump comes back. So the real Trump is in the White House. And again, whether you guys believe me or not, I don't care. It was a doppelganger Trump that was in there, right? I was doing all the looking into that. It was indeed a false Trump. It was a shorter Trump. I think one who was like 5'10" or something like that. Whereas the real Trump is like 6'1", 6'2", something of that nature. The guy was a little bit shorter, had a little bit more of a puffier face. Even his voice seemed a little bit off as well too. It was not the real Trump. That was a doppelganger. Whether you believe me or not, who cares? That's what happened, right? And now the real Trump has come back into office. It's what I'm getting, and I'm not looking for an opinion poll. That's just a report from what I'm giving you guys. Take it or leave it. But yes, the real Trump is back into the White House now. So there you have it. Okay, so we're just going to have to see. We're going to have to see exactly what happens between him and Israel. It's going to be interesting. I know that the real Donald Trump actually did have connections with Netanyahu, right? They actually had a pretty close connection together. So we'll see what happens with that. Okay, this one here is from Ali Mills. Any news for UK? Things are pretty dire here. Well, Ali, and I say this with the greatest respect, it's supposed to. It's supposed to. Your entire system is sinking, and it needs to. It's like here in Canada, this whole system needs to sink. It's like in the United States, that system needs to sink. It's like in the UK, that system needs to sink. It's like in Italy, that system needs to sink. All of these systems have to go. They can't stick around. They gotta go, right? You cannot salvage corrupt systems. You know, why are you basically trying to scoop up dog shit and thinking that that dog shit is going to serve you down the road? It's not. Bury it in the ground and let nature take care of it. Because all of these systems are dog shit. Okay? It needs to be buried in the ground, it needs to rot, and it needs to let the earth take care of it. So the people are basically taking their power back. The UK is going to press the absolute crap out of its citizens, because that's what's going to light a fire under you. And if you guys are not seeing what's actually happening behind all the melodrama, you are missing out. You're missing the point. You're missing what's happening to humanity. We're coming together. We're unifying. Do you know how amazing that is? To have thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people walking down the street and being able to unite for a common cause. Do you know how unbelievable that is? That's exactly what we're looking for. This is exactly what I have foreseen for the past 5 years, is looking at cities and hundreds of thousands of people, even millions of people, coming together and unifying and standing together for a common cause. That is brilliant. That's what you want. You do not want to say, oh, okay, hey guys, sorry, we're wrong. Just everybody go back to work and go back home. Be okay with your digital IDs. Be okay with vaccinations. Be okay with all this stuff and just go sit down. Do you think that's what we want? That's not it. All of this needs to go. Everything pertaining to the corruption of politics, the very fact that those people are still walking around that are basically trying to put these laws out, cannot stand. They gotta go. And in order for them to go, the people have to stand up. Look at what's happening with Italy. Italy is the baseline here. Italy is the template. That's pretty much what every single city on this planet needs to go through to get through this. And that's what I feel 2026 holds a lot of energy with. A lot more cities are going to follow the example of Italy, right? Of the UK, even in certain areas of the United States, even in Canada, right? Everywhere. There's going to be people standing up, because right now we are in a universal year of 9. The universal year of 9 is not showing anything new. It is showing the result of all the fruits of our labor, of what we have done and what we have experienced and the actions we've gone through for the past 9 years. That's what a 9-year does. A universal 9-year cycle is showing you what you have produced through the previous years of that cycle. When the 9-year is gone and a 1-year starts, which is next year, then everything starts to change. Nothing is meant to change this year. You're just looking at a reflection. You're looking at a reckoning pertaining to the energies that we have put forward within the past 9 years. And to see it, this is what we've done. This is what's uncovered. Here's the blindfold removed from your eyes so that you can see exactly what has happened, what has transpired with the actions that we've taken. It's a reflection of your karma. That's a 9. When you go into a 1-year, it's a brand new beginning. New changes, new beginnings, new rollout, new transformation. That's what's going to bring about big change when we start the 1 year in 2026. That's where you see change. You're not going to see change this year. Sorry, but you're not. Because it's a 9 year. Nines are not about change. Nines are about reflection, adaptability. They're chameleons. But most importantly is they're big mirrors. And they're showing you these mirrors of everything that has been accumulated up until now. They are culminators. That's what we're seeing with a universal 9 year. So, what is going to happen? Brad, is it going to get worse? Yes. And it needs to. It needs to happen because your systems are still working. These systems of the corrupt, these taxes, this inflation, all of this stuff is still operating. It's got to go. It's got to die. And until it's dead, it keeps going. So you want to make sure that you're working together with where the current is taking you. You're looking at these unified hearts. You're seeing people coming together. They want this gone. They want this done. And as that happens, new systems will come together to take over the position of old systems. New financial systems, new government, new banking, new technology, new travel, new forms of education, everything. All of it has got to change. And we do have the changes for it. And again, it comes together, not through a 9 year, but as we start into the 1 year. Then we go into a 1 cycle, then we go into an 11 cycle, then we go into a 3 cycle, and even just those 3 cycles alone indicate large phases of change. Is it all going to happen at once in 2026? No. But it's going to be a benchmark to very, very powerful changes that are going to set the stage for another set of 9 years that are going to be astronomically powerful because, by God, the people are taking their power back. That's what's happening. Because we've seen the shit show, we've seen the reflections, we've seen the reckoning, we've seen everything that's been taking place out of the previous 9 years that we have worked with throughout every single country, every nation on this planet, and we don't like it, and now we got to change it because humanity is ripe to change. And that's what's happening next year. Ali, that's what's going on. Okay? You need to go through this stuff. It's not fun. I know that. It does suck, but that's the only way humanity is going to grow. We grow because we always lean over the precipice until we say, no, I don't want this, and then you lean back. And now you start unifying with people. The fact that humanity is unifying is the most wonderful thing ever. That is beautiful. That is what you want. That is a sign of great change that is ahead. And unless you guys can learn to read the signs, you're going to panic. You're going to panic because you keep looking at everything on the surface. The surface doesn't tell you anything. You got to go deep within. You got to explore. You got to see this unfolding. You got to look behind the drama and see what this actually means, because this is a hologram. And the hologram can give you the real good details when you start to go within. You got to go in here. Got to stop thinking that you know what's going on if all you're doing is looking out here. You got to look in here so it can show you the bigger picture. That's what I've done. That's why I know a lot of these things are coming about. And it's a wonderful thing to see. It's wonderful to see people coming together. It's wonderful to see unification on the planet. It's wonderful to see people walking together hand in hand for a common cause. That's what you want. Independency, liberation, unification, community, interconnectedness. That is the transformation needed to bring about a new world. And we're just about to enter it. And it's going to be wonderful. It's a very positive future ahead, my friends. But you just got to get through the shit show first. And that's what you're going through right now. Okay? Okay. How are we on time here? I think we got about 2 or 3 more minutes. Okay, let me just go down here a bit more. Okay, Nina says, briefly, can you tell us what role the pyramids play in this moment of the evolution of Earth? Okay, you want a really, really, really low elevator version. Okay. Ancient technology. Ancient technology that basically buffers the Earth together with the stars. It is a celestial connector. When you're looking at the nature of the Pyramid of Giza, just for example, and you're looking at all of that ancient technology that exists underneath the pyramid, well, that's the spine of the pyramid. You have the Nile, basically being the power source for the pyramid. That's creating those subtle vibrations. That spine starts to charge. The pyramid itself would be like the head, and you're looking at a gigantic antenna, and that antenna connects the entire network together, helps to connect the entire network of the ley lines together with the earth, together with the trajectory of all other ancient sites that are upon those ley lines, opening them up directly to the coordinates of specific stars like Orion, like Sirius, like the Pleiades, etc., opening up this gateway that connects together the celestial consciousness of the forces of nature, bonding in harmony together with the earth to keep everything stabilized. Earth is a stabilizer between itself, the star system, and much of the galaxy. It is a stabilization point. And that is exactly what the pyramids and other ancient sites on these ley lines are designed to do. They are basically creating a satellite dish. It is a gigantic satellite dish that is not only balancing out the Earth's energies, but balancing out other stars it connects to, part of a gigantic galactic web. And through this galactic web enables the ability of larger cosmic forces of nature to connect and bring about greater fertility between the planet and the cosmos. It is a yin and yang connection. It is as above, so below. It is a stabilizer. It is a power plant. It is a satellite dish. It is a connector. It is a portal. It is a transformer. It is a conductor. It is a wide network of a cerebrum, like looking at all of the brain cells connecting together. Does that help? Because that's all those things. It is also an initiation chamber for initiates because it works with the dielectric, which I'll talk about. Okay, that will be coming up in an upcoming video. All right. Nina says, what is the difference between ether and plasma? Plasma is a form. It represents, again, the next state beyond vapor, whereas ether has no form. Ether is formless. It has nothing that you can identify. Let me see if I can give you an example. What do you guys see on this white piece of paper? What do you see? You don't see anything. That's the ether. Okay? Now, if I was to put a very faint drawing here, probably wouldn't be able to see it too much, but you probably still can't see it. There's a little bit of lines there. That would be the idea of plasma. Plasma is just the next state, a lighter state of matter. Okay? Ether is not matter, but it is working eternally in the background because it is responsible for all matter. Okay? So ether is matterless, but it is responsible for all matter. Plasma is just another state of matter. So therefore, that's the difference. You can't compare the two. There is only one true element in all of creation, and that's the ether. The ether is the only one element. Everything, when we look at earth, fire, air, water, those are sub-elements. Those are material elements. And again, you can look at the idea of how vapor and plasma go and so forth, and that's fine. But like I said, those are just different states of matter. So you have to look into the idea that you cannot compare plasma to ether because ether is in a completely different ballpark. It is responsible for everything. It is what is permanently running in the background, never ceasing, never beginning, never ending, without form, without image, without story. But it is responsible for everything that we have. It is responsible for life to be life. It is responsible for breath to be breath. It is responsible for God to be God. It is responsible for nature to be nature. Yet, it is none of those things. That's the great irony of the ether. All right? Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. So again, on Friday, I will be back. Yes, everybody have a good shit show. I love it. I'll be back on Friday for the Wisdom Nexus, okay? And then we're going to take personal questions there as well, too, personal readings. So feel free to join me on Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, okay? Blessings to you all. Namaskar. May it be well with you. Take care. Bye for now.